Welcome to another Mentorship Monday. Today we're joined by Amoye Phillpotts-Brown. She is, well, she's going to tell you about herself, but she is a mind and she is ready to share her experiences and her journey to become a brand manager for Coca-Cola and many other things that we learn in the life. Hi, good evening. My name is Shanae Reed and I just want to say welcome. Hi, Amoye.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I'm good.
Okay, I just want to say I'm super excited for our conversation today and the wealth of information that you'll be sharing with our viewers. Are you excited?
I am excited. I am really, really excited to be here. And thank you for actually asking me to come here and have a chat with you.
You're most welcome. I'm honored that you got to make time for us. Like, whew, sis, we know how busy everybody is.
Yes.
So thank you. All right, so while I have you, so guys, I also want to point out that Amoy has an Instagram live on her page as well. So we'll give you the information for that later on. For persons who are interested in having Amoy as a mind, as a source or resource that you'll be able to use to access information, you can always go to the mindsof.com and reach out to her, and you'll be able to stay connected, get some information, get some questions answered on being a brand manager. Now, Amoy, can you share with us the journey that it took to be brand manager for Coca-Cola?
Sure. Um, let me even start by saying, talking about myself is not always my thing, but I am definitely willing to share in order to help other persons. So my journey to brand management was, I guess, relatively interesting. I started I started in high school in fifth form, and I actually wanted to be a pediatrician. I had the great idea I wanted to be a pediatrician, and I started actually doing the sciences in high school. After years of doing the sciences, I kind of realized that this wasn't really it for me. And moving in or transitioning into sixth form, I decided to actually change my focus from sciences, and I started doing the businesses. So I did POB, I did econ, I also did geography at the time. Just because it was something I was interested in. And so that's what I did in high school in sixth form. In doing that, I realized that I had an eye for business. Wouldn't say I want to be an entrepreneur, but I just knew I wanted to do something in business. So when I was leaving, I went to Campion. So after I left Campion, I actually decided, okay, I don't want to travel overseas. I don't want to study overseas. It didn't really actually interest me at the time, but I wanted to go to UTech actually. So I applied to UTech and UE. I actually did not hear back from UTech, and so I only heard from UE. So I said, okay, well, I'll just go to UE then. It wasn't my first choice, but I will go there regardless. And I did a degree. I pursued marketing. So my degree was focused on marketing. When I did this, I realized that, okay, for my first 2 years, I really was just a student that went to school and went back home. That's all I did. And I wasn't
Wow.
even sure at the time if marketing was the fit for me because I didn't really find it exciting. I just was like, I'm going to school, reading, and then going home. And so after the second year, I got the advice from my mother at the time. She said, you need to start actually doing some form of activity at school. So with that, I said, okay, I'm going to try to do some form of activity. And so I actually signed up for first year experience. You didn't have to be in first year to be a part of first year experience. And so I did
That's
that
true.
first. Um, and I actually was able to travel to Costa Rica to represent UE, just to represent Jamaican culture really at the time. And I thought to myself, oh, well, this is interesting, to meet other cultures. And then I said, okay, I'm going to sign up also to see if I can help with the CEAC committee, which is the Culture and Entertainment Affairs Committee at UWI. So I joined that committee, and while working on that committee, I started planning events. You know, I really started planning events. I planned Miss UWI, I planned UWI Carnival, I planned, you know, UWI Juve, just a lot of different events while working UWI integration, and worked with the team there. And at that moment is when I realized that marketing was what I wanted to do, because I felt excited to really, you know, to really plan these events, to kind of sit down, use my creative juices and see how every year how we could have made it better, and you know how we could become more seamless in our executions. And that's the point when I identified that I was going to do marketing. So after leaving UWI, I realized that, okay, I need a job. And the challenge for a lot of university students is finding that job. Every summer while I was at UWI, I actually I did summer jobs. So I worked at Sagicor during summer, Victoria Mutual during summer, just many different, First Caribbean as well. And I worked in their marketing department. And then I said, you know what, there needs to be more, because I need to find a job now. I'm leaving UWI. And you want to feel independent. You know, you want to be able to buy things. You want to, you know, look at buying a car. You want to have a steady income coming in. And so I decided to volunteer. So I did a lot of volunteering. I taught swimming at Campion. In my last year, I taught swimming at Campion. I would leave there. I would go to the Jamaica Netball Association and I would assist them there. I started working with a magazine called B3 Magazine, and I assisted there. So I would do those 3 different jobs in one given day, just to volunteer, as well as just to learn and gain experience. Through volunteering, right, I actually met someone, and she said, you know, I really like the way you work. You should send me a resume. And I said, okay, sure, I'll send you my resume, not thinking anything of it. Quite frankly, at this time, while volunteering, I was also like applying to jobs. They say you should apply to jobs. So if I was applying to jobs, I'd apply to 10 jobs, I would hear from 1. And it was very demotivating, but I decided regardless, still gonna focus on the volunteering. And so I just volunteered consistently. So I did it, I gave my resume in, they called me, and the job was actually at Wisinco for it was a trade marketing assistant. So you'd be the assistant to the trade marketing manager. Right. So I did that interview, but then simultaneously I got I got a call from Caribbean Airlines to actually come on to be an air hostess, because I had this idea, well, you know, if I'm not going to do marketing, maybe I can be a flight attendant. I can travel the world. Why not?
Why not?
Exactly. And so Caribbean Airlines also called me and said they wanted me to do an interview. I did the interview. I actually reached the second round of the interviews. And so I did all the second round of interviews with Wisinco. And then I was waiting for calls. And so Wisinco called me. They called me in the morning and they said, hey, we want to offer you a job. And it's so funny because, you know, you apply so much and you never hear back from anybody. And the time when you finally hear back from people, you just start to hear it repeatedly. You just start to hear from people consistently. So I accepted the job at Wisinco. In the afternoon, Caribbean Airlines called me and offered me a job, but I already accepted the Wisinco job. So I just stuck with Wisinco. And so I was working as a trade marketing assistant for about 1.5 years. And while I was there, they asked me, what's your 5-year goal? What's your 5-year plan? And I said, well, I don't really know so much personally what that plan is going to be, but the one thing I do know is that in 5 years, I want to be a brand manager. And so I did everything. Any job they wanted me to do, even if it wasn't related to being an assistant, I would do it. I was there. I was ready and waiting to get it done. I learned from senior representatives at Wisinco. Wisinco has taught me so much. And so I moved from a trade marketing assistant to a marketing coordinator, to a brand assistant, and then a brand manager in the space of about 3 to 4 years. So I was able to make my 5-year plan a reality, basically. And so in like 2 years ago, I was I'm still at Wisinko. I decided, okay, they called me in and said, what's the next step for you? I said, boy, I don't really know what brand there is left here for me to work with. I mean, the only one I would be interested in is Coca-Cola. And I said, but there's somebody there in that role, so I know it's not really going to be a reality, but that's really what I wanted. So much so I had a little Coca-Cola car on my desk that I would look at every day because that was just a brand that I was excited to work with. And then in the middle of that year, they called me and said they want me to interview for the position. I interviewed. I did it on my birthday, and yeah, it was intense. Like on my birthday. And when you're working with an international brand, they obviously have a lot of standards for you to interview. So I did about 5 interviews in that one day. And it was really, really intense. When I was finished, I wasn't sure if I was going to get the job. And I was so exhausted. And then they called me about 3 days later and said, we're going to give you this position. And I've been working in the role as the Coca-Cola Brand Manager for May actually was 2 years. So
Wow, sis, that's a lot. Well, that's a lot. Well, kudos to you for actually doing those interviews on your birthday. I feel like birthdays are just special holidays that we get to celebrate ourselves. So, yeah. Well, the person that told you that you would have been a good fit for their brand, was that the same company?
Yes. It was the same company. So while at Wisinko, Wisinko is a distributor for Coca-Cola in Jamaica. The distributor as well as the producers of Coca-Cola in Jamaica. While working at Wisinko, or while I've been working at Wisinko, I've transitioned from multiple brands. So Welch's, I've been the brand manager for Welch's. I've been the brand manager for, Unilever and Kellogg's. And then I've also been the brand, and Nestle. And then I've also, most recently, the brand manager for Coca-Cola. But yes, that person was at Wisinko.
Okay. All right. So, I know how important it is to network and have connections to persons who are able to get you to your next level. Are any of these persons mentors to you, or mentors currently?
Yes. One of my mentors is, outside of my mother, because my mother is really one of my key mentors, but outside of her, I also get mentorship from our trade marketing manager. She was the one who identified that, she thought I was a good fit for working at, somebody just said I took up a bottle of Welch's grape juice.
Right.
Good. Yes, but it was Karen Rosen. She works at Wisinko. She was my mentor for the first 3 years working at Wisinko, and I still call upon her for advice even now.
Awesome. I always love to hear stories about how mentors shape the lives of persons, because we don't necessarily realize sometimes how their words or their wisdom actually propel us to go forward. So I love that. Now, so what is a day in the life like for a brand manager?
Okay, so a brand manager, a day in the life, I would say, well, firstly, what is really brand management, right? People hear it and it sounds, so shiny and exciting. And it is exciting. It's very, very exciting. No day is the same when you're a brand manager. But really what you're doing is you're looking at a particular brand and you're identifying what are the needs as well as what is the perception you want for that particular brand. So then you create a strategy that you implement in whatever market you're working in as to how you can develop brand equity for the brand, how you can develop brand loyalty for the brand, how you can generate brand awareness for that particular brand as well. And in identifying those things, you work with a team to execute and ensure that your objectives are met for that particular brand. So with that being said, a day in the life for me is I get up. I'm not a morning person. Let me just say I'm not a morning person, but I am a night person. So I get up in the morning. I personally choose to have the first half an hour of my day to myself. And so I wake up, I don't check Instagram, WhatsApp, no emails. The first half an hour is my time to really center myself for the day that is going to come. And so that half an hour is my time. Once I get into office, I really start to first plan what my day is, right? So, yes, mornings are overrated.
I
I
agree.
agree. I agree. So the first part of my day, I plan the day. So I'll write a things to do list. I usually try to put an asterisk beside the things that are my top priority. I also look and review what meetings I'll have for that given day. Actually, I started that the night before to see what meetings are happening on the following day. And then we go into, I may have meetings. So in those meetings, we're possibly planning or strategizing for a upcoming event or an upcoming campaign. And then outside of those direct strategizing meetings, I could also have meetings to discuss next steps or next activations for my brand with my overseas partners, because Coca-Cola is an international brand, and so you communicate with persons overseas basically every day. Our team is based in DR, so the person that I speak to are based in DR, and so we have discussions every day about or the strategy that we want to implement for the brand. So outside of meetings, you then are planning. You're planning for the next day, but you're also planning for campaigns that should be executed in the coming month or coming days. You're also having to direct the efforts of your team. So your direct report. So if you have a brand assistant, I have a brand assistant. You kind of help her to map out what her day is also going to look like, or her week is going to look like. And then you also may meet with different agencies or suppliers in that day. Outside of meeting and strategizing in a given day, you may have interviews that you may have to go on. You may have radio interviews or a TV interview that you may have to plan for, or you may have to go to. And so that could happen in a day as well. And so that's kind of just a little snapshot of what the day in the life is. And then you also have some administrative things. You have procurement that you have to also look into. You have balancing of your budget to ensure that you're on target with the budget that you've been given. And that's just a general day.
Wow, sis, wow. All right, so Meeks Russell was asking, what is DR?
DR is the Dominican Republic. Sorry.
Right, and Dan Jade, I don't want to spoil that. Your handle is really pretty. She says yes, meeting galore. Wow, same. And then events, when the events was a thing, right? So yeah, that's actually a lot. That sounds like I would get overwhelmed because the meetings and not my friends. So that sounds like it's a high pressure job. It's very on demand. So how do you stay motivated when you have so many tasks or so many persons asking for your attention daily?
Yeah, it can be a very high pressure job, because as I said, no day is the same. And also what happens a lot is that you go into a given day and think that, you have it all planned out, it's organized, and then one thing can happen that could throw off that day completely, right? And you end up being in a meeting for 3 hours and you still have your work to continue for that day. But how do I stay motivated is I tend to focus on my why. It sounds very cliche, you focus on your why, and yes, people say focus on your why, but the truth is it really works. My why in brand management is because I want to help people. And when I say that, people are like, you're doing that in brand management? How so? You are, because you're assisting persons identify what it is their purchase should be, what is the right product for what they're doing, what's the right service for what they're doing, and all of that comes really in marketing and brand management. So whenever I'm planning something, I really try to go back to what my, my deep why is. And once I've done that, I'm able to become more motivated to take on the day, as well as there's nothing greater than feeling the excitement that you feel when you've executed an extremely great campaign and you see that it's resonated with persons. And when you do that reflection and you think about, wow, I was able to execute this campaign and it really stuck with persons, you're then again motivated to continue.
Wow, I've actually never thought about the role that persons play to influence our choices in what we purchase. Well, thank you for that, because I've actually never thought about it. There are a few persons who are asking the same questions. We understand that, yes, this is a high pressure job. How do you balance life as a whole, a social life, family life, a home life with this high pressure job?
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? You don't get it perfect every day. And not every day, by the way, let me just say that you're going to feel motivated, right? Just back to the motivation. Not every day will you feel motivated, but at the end of the day, you are aware of the fact, you are aware of what your role is. And your role is you're managing a brand. And so you are also that brand. So even when it is that you may not feel it, you have to show up and you have to be a good representation of that brand. But how do I balance, my personal life, my work life, just my extracurricular activities, I guess you could call them.
Right.
One, I try to plan a lot. So in my calendar, for argument's sake, I have a reminder every month that says family activity planning, right? So I have a reminder that comes up every month that says family activity planning, and that's a reminder for me to plan some form of family activity, or maybe it's a friend activity. Also to, you have to know what is a priority for you. So, obviously if you're in brand management and that's what you're excited about, now is the time for you to focus on that. And so you're going to be focused on that particular job, yes. However, I think it's really important that you find time for other things that are important to you, so your family. Once you think that something is important, you'll make the time for it. It may not always be perfect, but you will make the time for it. So as I said, I do a lot of planning. I try to take time for myself. So for instance, right now we're working at home because of COVID. And so, the day really starts from in the morning and it could go straight back down until 7-8 o'clock because you're working from home. So you're accessible.
Right.
However, I try to make a conscious decision to take time in the evening for myself. So let's say after 8 o'clock, I try to reduce how many emails I'll answer to when I can. I will only answer emails if I find them urgent, right? In terms of phone calls, after 8:30, I put my phone on do not disturb, right? Because after 8:30 now, it's home time and I need to spend some time with my family. And so my phone is on do not disturb. I do, however, leave room in my favorites for my bosses. So like our director and my direct boss and my family is in my favorites. And if they call me, I understand at that time it must be an emergency for them to be calling, right? But once it is that you've set boundaries for yourself, people will align themselves, right? So they know that after 8:30, it don't make sense to call Amoye because she's not going to be accessible right now. Right. So again, it goes to planning your days, planning time for your family, and then also really sitting and thinking about what is a priority for you. So if family time is a priority for you, you'll make time for it. If charity work is a priority for you, you'll also make time for it.
Absolutely. And then it sounds like you're intentional about your time. So it's not like you're saying, okay, this is what I need to achieve today. You actually lay out how you want things to be structured. So somebody said that sounds like you have to be very organized, and I agree. All right, so there's another question from Music Lover. How do you maintain consistency and build a momentum to achieve your goals?
How do I
maintain a momentum? What goes it? How do you maintain consistency and build a momentum to achieve your goals?
Again, it goes to, well, firstly, looking back at your why, right? I think it's really important to look back at your why. I think consistency is a challenge that everybody has, because when things get hard, you want to give up and you want to, let go of that particular goal because it just feels overwhelming. But in that moment, my suggestion to anybody is, one, to really go back to the reason why you're doing it. Really go back to how you're going to impact people, and what kind of also legacy you want to leave. I think for me, I will focus on, I want to be, it sounds cliche, but I want to be the best version of myself. So I want to ensure that if I'm managing a brand such as the pen, I'm managing pen brand, I want to know that this was the best brand that you guys, I left a great impact on you while managing pen brand, right? I want to also leave a mark. So when I'm planning or executing, I think I try to leave a little bit of Amoye in that execution or campaign, right? A lot of my friends will even say to me, they'll call me and say, oh, they saw a particular campaign or I saw an ad in the paper and they knew it was me because it just looked like Amoye. It felt like something Amoye would do, and I really try to ensure I do that. So to go back to the question of how I remain consistent, it's focusing on my why, also focusing on the fact that I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave an impact wherever I go. And when I do that, I just feel really motivated to stay consistent, even when it gets challenging, to ensure that, I'm doing exactly what my goal is.
I love that. And I love that your friends can even see your personal touch in what you do. I absolutely love that. Now, so we just talked about how you balanced everything and how you are. Oh, before I get to my other question, Music Lover is saying, what would you tell your high school self that you wish you knew now? No, what would you tell your high school self that you wish you knew then?
The first thing is, it's gonna be okay, right? It's really going to be okay, and where you are is where you're supposed to, where it is exactly where you're supposed to be. That's the first thing I would tell my high school self. Also, I would also tell my high school self, there's nothing wrong with being who you are. Your personality is what makes you special. There's only one like you. And I'm saying this to everybody. There's really only one like you, right? There's not going, people may have similar qualities, but there's only one like you. And, be confident in yourself.
All right, so Janila, I think the name is, she asked a question that I'm going to go into next. So basically, she was asking what inspires your creativity. We're gonna get to that in a second. I don't want to spoil this one. It's the last name is Francis. She says, what advice would you give to somebody going to university?
So the first thing is that you're not going to have it all figured out. The reality is that when you leave university, you sometimes, if you are lucky enough, you may know exactly what you want to do, but sometimes you don't, and that's okay, right? I think the first year, so don't be overwhelmed by the fact that you may not know exactly what it is that you want to do or what your career path may be. My suggestion is always want to choose a degree that you think will have, is, I guess it's a marketer in me, but it's easily marketed. So if it is that you're not sure what you're doing, then really don't go into something as specific as, for instance, zoology, because you're not really sure what you want to do. So why would you want to go as specific as, like as zoology or microbiology, whatever it is. So try to find something that is a little bit easier to align with what your possible goals may be. Also to take some time to do some real, reflection and introspection to figure out what it is that you like, right? What is it that you like? What is it that you enjoy? What do you do now that kind of excites you? And see what when you've identified what that thing is, then you can kind of try to select items or try to select a degree that will work with that. And then finally, there's that strength finders test online that I suggest everybody, that I tell everybody to do all the time. It's a strength test, strength and weakness finder test online. I can't remember it right now. I'll probably send it to Shanae when we're finished so she can possibly post that. But it helps you identify what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And when you can identify what your strengths are, I think it kind of helps direct your path a little bit more.
Okay, I love that answer. The Another question just came in. How do you overcome the regret of leaving college and giving back scholarships? And it's been 7 years, well, I'm assuming since you left college, and you haven't returned as yet. What advice would you give that person?
How do you overcome the regret of leaving college and giving
So
back scholarship?
right. And they still haven't gone back. I'm assuming to school as yet. You can clarify in the comments if you'd like.
Yeah.
That's ministry.
I think firstly, if you've left college, and you've given back a scholarship, it doesn't mean that it's too late for you to go back. Even if it's 7 years, there's still time. There's no time like the present. So if it is that you've left, you weren't able to complete, you weren't able to, you left college and you gave the scholarship back, there's still time. There's still time for you to sign up for university. There's still time for you to even sign up for a certification, even if it's not necessarily university, right? Does not mean that you cannot get a job. Again, it goes back to, for me, I always suggest people to volunteer, because in volunteering, you really make connections in order to find a job. Or if you want to be an entrepreneur, you make those connections that will help you in your entrepreneur, in your goal, right? So to that person, I say there's still time. Try to, find what it is that you desire doing. And if you want to go back to university, go ahead and apply and try again.
Right, I agree. So if it's something that you really want to do, just apply for it. If it's that the money isn't there as yet, there are several ways to get access to that. And there are still scholarships available, so you can still apply for those if you're interested. So I totally agree with your answer, Amoy. All right, so yes, back to, you're welcome. All right, so back to the question of balancing everything. I know that you have a charity called Martha's Smile, and you also do a live on your Instagram account called Real Talk with Amoy. So how do you build up the creativity after you're so exhausted after work, so many hours, so many demands on your time? How do you balance everything, and how do you stay creative?
Well, the first question about balancing everything, again, I had said earlier, what's a priority to you? And while I was at university, I really realized that I had a real interest in, charity work or volunteerism. And it was something that was really important to me. I think there's no greater feeling than making someone else feel special, right? Especially when people are going through a very trying or hard time. There's every charity job that I've done. I mean, when I'm finished, that level of excitement after I've, done that good deed, it really, really drives me to continue. So for me, with COVID especially, there's a lot of things that were changing. And I really wanted to help other people during that time. And so for Real Talk, what I did was that, it started out really kind of selfishly, because I really wanted to find an avenue to talk with other people about what was happening with COVID, quite frankly. You know, I wanted to connect with other persons because I was struggling in the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of COVID because it was just really uncertain times. And so I said, you know, what could I do? And I said, well, the social media is there. Um, and so I created Real Talk with Amoye to chat with other persons to get their experience. First, it was just really about how COVID was impacting their lives. And our first 3 to 4 lives were really about that. And then it developed into so much more. I realized that people would actually message me on Instagram and say, you know, they really like the live because they're able to learn from persons. And I said, you know what, this is it. I really want to help people again. As I said, my why is always to help people. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to invite people. Some of them are friends of mine. Some of them are persons that I really reached out to, even on Instagram, just direct message them out to the blue. I didn't know them and asked them to come on to live. Some were actually persons messaged me and said, I think this is a good idea, or this would be a good person to speak to on the live because I think people would want to hear from them. And so I've spoken with about 13 persons, and all of them sharing their different stories about where they are now, their journey to where they are now, and then giving advice to people. So that's really how Real Talk really came about or was created. The other thing too, going back to, you know, how I balance, you know, it's really, I prioritize a lot. Charity work is really important to me. There are a lot of people who are struggling in various aspects of their life, maybe because, you know, they're experiencing extreme poverty, or some of them are in a home and they need support. And I think, you know, it's a part of our duty to really give back wherever we can, because there's always somebody else who's in a worse position than we are. And so I just think it's always just so, I guess, important to me again to give back whatever I can, no matter how small it is. And so that's a priority for me. And so because I make it a priority, I find time for it. And to stay creative in that time, I do a lot of brainstorming. So I sit down, I have conversations with other persons, you know, I pick other person's brains and I say, you know, this is an idea I have, how you think I can do it? And just brainstorm. I write them all down on a piece of paper, and then when I'm finished, I kind of organize those thoughts and come up with an you know, something for maybe be Martha's Smile, or it could be Real Talk.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. And I love that with the demand on the attention that you were able to create a space and a platform for you. So absolutely love that, sis. I'm a big fan. I've been following, guys. So if you haven't been watching the lives, what are you waiting on? All right. So you've been giving back so much. You've given so much of your time, and you've just come on here just now and you've shared so much information with us. And we want to know, how can we support you?
Well, my thing is right now, I've launched through Martha's Smile, which is my charity, right? We give back every year. We launched our I Smile t-shirt line, which we're very, very excited about. It's 3 different designs, and they're all t-shirt designs that focus on, you know, positive messaging. So if you want to support me, my suggestion is 1, go and follow Martha's Smile page. 2, you know, take a look at the t-shirts. If you are able to purchase a t-shirt, because the proceeds from that t-shirt go back to Annie Dawson's children home, as well as LaTanya Blake. LaTanya Blake is a woman who is right now, she is, you know, she's in Denham Town. She has 2 children. Her father is, you know, really, really old, and, you know, they need support. They really, really do need support. And then Annie Dawson Home is a children's home, and they are also in need of support because they're at the point now where they need so much financial support. If they're not able to get it in this 2020 year, they will have to close down, and the 25 children that are housed at that home will have to be sent to other homes in the area. And so they do need support. So if you can purchase an I Smile t-shirts, t-shirt, it's $1,500, and again, the proceeds go towards those initiatives. The other thing is, you know, I think acts of kindness. So I would say pass it on, you know, like really pay it forward. Doing one act of kindness every day really helps a lot. You know, you could really brighten someone's day in a very special way. So if you also want to support me, it would be, my suggestion would be to, you know, pay it forward, and, you know, just one small act of kindness in your day. If you haven't done so already, do it now. Is another way that you can support me, as well as follow Minds of Jamaica. How could I not? How could I forget that? We're on the page now.
Right. So I'll definitely be buying my t-shirt. I told you already still.
Yes,
So probably on one of my lives you'll be seeing me in my Martha's Smile, in my I Smile t-shirt. So yes, definitely supporting that cause. And guys, if you want to have a conversation, if you want to connect, see, Music Lover says kindness is free.
It's free.
Everybody can do that. Free.com. So you can always connect at themindsOf.com with Amoye, and we'll also be posting this video on our YouTube channel. So if there's somebody that you think would benefit from the wealth of information that she shared with us, you can definitely share the video. Thank you so much, Amoye. I truly appreciate your time and your knowledge and your experience that you've shared today.
Thank you so much for having me. And, you know, before I leave, I just want to say one thing, Shani, is that even though it is that I may have spoken about brand management and it seems like a lot, right? And persons feel possibly maybe nervous to go into that field, right? You see, for the first year while working in brand management, it may not be easy, but you really develop, and, you know, you develop experiences, you develop experience as well during the time, and it makes you want better, and it's really, really exciting, you know, and you will enjoy it. And if you do plan to go into that field, I would also suggest that you do, you know, business subjects, and if you can, I would suggest also to do a marketing degree.
Can I just, I know that you just said all of that, but can I just tell you how I'm loving the comments? So Meeks Russell said it was awesome. Janelia says enjoy it, thanks much. I love the comments, guys. Thank you so much. And we too appreciate you for joining us. We're never ungrateful when we see that you've signed on. Love to see it.
Thank you.
So, bye.